I mean, I'd be curious for Jay's opinion here. There's all sorts of fantasy implications, and we are a fantasy football show, so I don't want to get too far off the reservation, as it were, about this. But I will say that, right, again, sports betting is legal, and that I think that we would have had a different take on the Bengals prospects in terms of, recommendations we made and money we placed in our own lives and for other people had you known that Joe Burrow was dealing with a wrist injury. I mean, like you would adjust. Or even if you didn't adjust, at least you could say, like, okay, I knew that. There's a reason why the NFL requires its teams to report injury concerns. And so the fact that it wasn't reported at all, despite the fact that, and that video was prior to the game, correct? Like the prime video.
That's him getting off the team bus to arrive at the game.
To arrive at the game. So he's got a wrist wrapped coming into the game, and it's disappointing. We'll talk about the fantasy implications about the injury getting worse and everything like that, but how would you deal with, when you were in the betting industry, Jay, how would you deal with a situation like this?
I mean, it's certainly frustrating, but it's also a weird thing with the NFL where, we are accustomed to this, to the, you get your Wednesday, Thursday, Friday practice reports and injury designations and everything, but no other sport does this. Like a couple days ago, Giannis in the NBA goes from probable to just doubtful and then out of the game 30 minutes beforehand. In the NHL, it's just you have an upper body injury. That could be a respiratory illness or you have a fractured collarbone. They don't define what the injury is. Right. So, but because we've gotten accustomed to it in the NFL, because that is how they go about it, certainly it impacts the line. There's a lot of money bet on these games. It impacts fantasy, which is obviously a huge part of how people follow the NFL. So it's a strange one. I'm not sure, if I had, looking at the visual of the wrist thing, I don't think that's enough to, move the line, but certainly it's impactful, and certainly in terms of live betting as well, the line went absolutely
I'll
crazy.
just say, we talked about this yesterday on the game preview, on the Thursday night game preview, and I mentioned the fact that Baltimore's defense is really good, that I had Joe Burrow at QB 13, which is probably the lowest I'd had him in quite some time, and that I was nervous about him. He wasn't on quote-unquote the hate list, but he was outside my top 10, and for texts that I got from friends like Howell or Burrow, I was like, Howell, stuff like that. But I do think had you known that, fantasy players would have been like, oh, so he's on the road against Baltimore in a short week and his wrist is banged up? I'm going to go with Jared Goff or Sam Howell, whoever else you might have considered there.
The difficulty is with, if he was shown as limited on the injury report, it's all right, well, what's the actual problem? Is this like Tom Brady showing up in the injury report every single week? Josh Dobbs is on the injury report this week, but we all think Josh Dobbs is just going to be fine. Now, the wrap makes it look a lot worse, so I don't really know what to do with this situation, but it certainly hasn't worked out great, and now it's the worst case scenario for the Bengals.
Well, right, and so he suffers a more serious injury, whatever level of injury he went into the game with that wrist, it gets worse during the game. He gets ruled out for the rest of the way as well. And so, for people saw them last night, but Connor, talk to people about what if Joe Burrow is going to miss a significant amount of time, and the positives are it's a Thursday night game. They've got 10 days until their game against the Steelers next week, which is suddenly very important for a Cincinnati season. But in terms of Browning, what kind of kid is this?
A true game manager in every sense of the word. He had a huge career at Washington. He really understood how to get the ball out. He was very accurate in the short and intermediate area. He's not a guy that looks to push the ball down the field. I was surprised how much he was looking to move last night. That wasn't a massive part of his game, and obviously he was under duress and holding the ball a couple of times. So I think when they get T. Higgins back and obviously Chase is in this offense, this is a guy that can get the ball out and pepper guys with targets. I think what they lose to their offense is that explosive play breakdown ability that Burrow gives you where they can push the ball down the field, obviously.
With Browning, there was a lot of consternation over not going for it on 4th and 3 towards the end of the first half at midfield because it's Jake Browning and because, you don't want to put this guy in this situation this early and don't know if Burrow's coming back. That's not a reason not to go 4th and 3. That is the reason, the precise reason to go for 4th and 3, because when you have Jake Browning, you're less likely to win the game. You want more variance. You want the game decided on individual plays, not on lengthy drives where there's more chance for the Jake Browningness to surface. So they should have gone for it at that point, and then they don't go for it. They give it back to Lamar. He scores a touchdown, and it's game over effectively.
Yeah, by the way, I like Jake Browningness as an adjective. I'll just say this. I thought for a guy on the road at Baltimore on a short week who probably got literally 0 reps in practice this week, or if he got any, he got just a handful. I thought he looked okay.
He's a capable quarterback.
And then you think of their upcoming schedule, Steelers, then Jaguars, then Colts, then Vikings. Like, solid defenses, but nothing where you're like, I mean, the Ravens are the best defense he'll face in the next 5 weeks.
Sure.
If, again, and we don't even know. Burrow may be fine for next week. We don't know. But I'm just sort of speculating. I think you feel much better about Joe Burrow and the Bengals offensive prospects than you do about the Ravens without Mark Andrews.
Yeah. Also, he plays the Steelers next week. Mike Tomlin can't keep getting away with this. He was supposed to play Deshaun Watson and Joe Burrow. Now he's got DTR and Jake Browning. Look at the Steelers' schedule. There is a very real chance the Steelers will be 11-3. It's unbelievable. They go Colts, Patriots, Cardinals. I think of their 3 games after this. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Steelers might be like the 23rd best team in football, and they might be 11-3.
It's like the Vikings last year.
And once again, Mike Tomlin will get no credit for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, exactly.
He's never finished top 3 in voting for Coach of the Year.
Top 5. Yeah, never been in the top 5. I mean, he should, honestly, if he gets them to 11-3, he should really just win the award.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.